Thanks for joining us for another round of Mums at the Table. It's your girl Fiona, here to talk this, that and the other with some fabulous mothers, otherwise known as Shona the Showstopper. How are you?
Thank you.
Good to see you. Rachel L.A. is in the hair.
I know, I was waiting for my name. I'm like, Showstopper too?
Yeah, and I'm looking at the yellow. It's Endometriosis Awareness Week. So some of us are sporting yellow.
This is all the yellow I had.
No comment, no comment. Rachel H is in the house. Good to see you, girl.
Good to see you.
Yes, it's lovely to see you. Now, I know none of you are short of an opinion, which is good, because this week we are going to be talking about young love and how parents need to be prepared for when their child has their first crush. Have you ever considered talking about drugs to your kids, and when is a good age to have that talk? Gia and Olive whip up an easy-to-make butterfly snack, and as I said, it's Endometriosis Awareness Month, so we sit down with Dr. Bevan Brown to find out more about this debilitating illness and so much more. So keep it locked and enjoy the chat, ladies. But first, early in the year, the Instagram egg cracked Insta records, beating Kyle Jenner of Kardashian fame for the most likes in 24 hours. The egg had a positive message and blamed the pressures of social media for its demise, urging others facing struggles to talk about it to someone. In fact, statistics indicate that 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental ill health. 1 in 7 Australians will experience depression at some point in their lives, and with the risk of suicide heightened for people with some mental illnesses, approximately 1 person dies from suicide every 40 seconds.
Wow.
So as I've just had that conversation with you, someone is committing suicide or even contemplating suicide. Mental health illness is a real issue for us. Ladies, are these alarming statistics to you? Is it something that resonates with you when we talk about mental health? Because for some people it's like schizophrenia, Alzheimer's. But I think it goes back to like depression, anxiety, and it's so common these days, Shona.
Even postnatal depression, even just sadness from being isolated at home with your kids, if you don't have a job or don't have family around. Yeah, I think it's a big thing in Australia. I think it's something that we don't spend enough time talking about. Not just people's mental illness, but how as humans we can care for those other people and find out what they're going through and if they need support.
And I think some of us don't even realise that we might be going through mental illness issues until we start talking to someone. It's so important to have those discussions. Rach, you've got a lot on your plate.
Yep.
You're full-time mum, full-time boss mum, doing the, your business, your career. How do you manage? What's your outlet? Like, do you find balance? You don't.
No, I don't think that I necessarily have balance. I haven't found that. I was just talking with my mom even today about it, about not having that sense of balance. And I think even that is a problem because I then can't provide support to other people. I know so many people who would probably really benefit from me taking that time to have a conversation with them. And I don't know if I need to find more space, because I feel like as a Christian, that's part of that sense of, the underlying message of why I'm a Christian is to be able to provide that community. And I think I'm too busy to provide that to other people. So I think I need to press pause and think about that.
I know there's an Are You OK Day.
Yeah.
But I think, do we need to be saying that all the time, Rach?
Absolutely. You can't just designate it to one day a year. That's good for awareness, but that's not good for managing it throughout the rest of the year. So I think being aware, and what you were saying before, Shona, resonated with me, that whole awareness is huge, but acting on that is even more important. Talking to your friends, staying connected. We can blame social media all we like, but if we didn't have social media, we'd still be busy doing something else. So yes, that's a reason. I acknowledge all of that, but I think we'd fill it with something else otherwise. And it's just a process of being very intentional about saying, how are you? Checking in with someone. So when I do my long drives to work or whatever, that's when I call people. Like, I'm on my own. I'm not going to be interrupted by my kids. I make calls, and that's when I talk to people.
And I think that's important, getting out and having the conversations, because so many mothers, like you said, stay at home, they're stuck with the baby, and they lose themselves in some sense.
Find a mum's group or like you said, look, I know for myself, I went through postnatal depression with our first one, and it was really hard for me to pick up the phone, and I had a really good church community around me. But sometimes it takes someone to say to you, come here and I'll give you a hug, or just to see that you're not happy.
Why was it hard for you? Because I think that's where the issue lies, is like why we feel like it's difficult to ask for help. Because I'm the same way. I find it difficult.
Look, in my family, you were brought up to be strong, and you didn't cry, and you didn't put your worries onto somebody else, and you're not succeeding. That was the feeling I had.
We put that pressure on ourselves. We're all, super mums.
Yeah.
Hashtag super mum, because you're doing it all. But I think we really need to check ourselves, take a step back and think, I actually need some me time, and it's okay to have some me time.
It's okay to put the kids in the playpen and go and sit and just
Have a chat.
So Fiona, do you have me time?
I struggle with it, but I'm trying to. That's why I've recently
I think we're
joined
all
the-
trying to.
Yeah, we're trying to. We can only try. Some relevant points, ladies, and thank you for keeping it real and raw, because while we are all boss women in our own rights, there's no awards for carrying the burden alone. Be sure to talk to someone you can trust and get professional help if you need it. If our discussion has raised some concerns for you or a loved one, we have the contact details on the screen of places to get help. But switching gears, now it's time to get in the kitchen with Gia and Olive, who are making butterfly snacks. Let's check this out.
You are a lucky girl. Do you want to say hi and tell them your name and what we're making?
We're making butterfly snacks.
We're making butterfly snacks.
And my brother's gonna make a bee, and I'm gonna make a butterfly.
I think they might both be butterflies, but I got in blue because that's his favourite colour. This one's for the kids. All you need for these snacks, it's an easy lunchbox idea. It just makes it more exciting for the kids. My kids love it. Look at them already. The kids get to choose what they want to put in here. Now, I know at schools at the moment they've got this whole thing about not putting peanuts in their snacks. So you just have to choose things wisely and what they can and can't have. So you can choose what you want to put in there. You choose what you want to put in there, but you've got to put a little bit of everything in there, okay? So put a few things. Now I've got just like mixed
Mama,
nuts.
I got something.
Okay, you can put it in there. I'll make my own one, right? And you guys can make one as well. Some walnuts, yum. And I love dates. I know the kids love dates too, don't they? Oh, they've got two there, I can see. Dates, I mean figs. And dates, did you put 2 dates in yours? Make sure you put 2 dates because we're going to halve it in half. Now you can use a paper bag. I like to recycle my plastic bags, but if you want, you can use paper, which is fine. Oh yeah, get some of those in there. Okay, you ready? I think that's heaps. So all you have to do is zip lock the bag, or if you've got a paper bag, you just fold it round, and you've just, you've got to make sure all the air's out of it.
I can set my one.
Yes, you've just got to cut it in half, or just spread it out so that half is on one side and half is on the other side. So make sure it's in half. So this one is showing you, so half is on this side, half is on that side, and I've pushed the air out and I've locked it.
I want to make a bee, Mama.
You want to make a bee? Okay, so should we use black for yours then?
I want blue.
You want blue, I know. So we're going to do little bee antennas all the way around, because bees have antennas that go all the way around, don't they? Oh, there's your little bee, Momo.
I need it now.
No, you can show the camera. Do you want that colour? Okay. And so the butterfly snack. So this one is Olive's butterfly. Okay, so here you have it. You have your little butterfly snacks. Use it for the kids. You can put whatever you want in it to make it exciting. Get them to help you in the kitchen. I always get my kids to help me in the kitchen so that they can learn to eat healthy foods. We'll see you next time. Bye. I got the butterflies attacking me. Woo.
For more easy-to-make, healthy recipes, we are giving away copies of this Sanitarium Nourishing Cookbook. To get your edition, email us at hello@mumsathetable.com with your postal details and the name of the book, Nourishing, and we'll post it out to you. Now, from butterfly snacks to butterflies in your stomach, when was the first time you fell head over heels, and how old were you? Better yet, has your child had their first crush, and did you know about it? An article in parents.com states that while some parents may want to avoid the subject altogether, others want to squeeze every last detail. But the best tactic is to start with general questions and follow your child's lead. Ladies,
Says the woman who's got kids having a crush.
right.
I thought you were going to say follow them around. I'm like, yeah, I'm up for that.
At the age of, like, if a kid's coming up at the age of 5 saying that someone's crushing on them or he's crushing on them.
That's not a crush.
Seriously, Shona.
Seriously, that's
Does it
not
not
a
make
crush.
you cringe, or does it make you like you know,
I don't think that's a crush either. At a young age, it's an interest, it's an affection, but it's not a romantic crush.
Says you who's got
says the lady who's dealing with
This isn't my daughter's not 5, the one I'm referring to.
So what's going on, Rachel? You actually are in this situation.
no, I know.
Her poor privacy.
Too bad.
Too late now. Shona, the showstopper, just let it out. So what's going on?
Yeah, so I have a daughter. She hasn't come to me saying she has a crush on anyone, but I've been made aware that there's a couple of little boys in her class that have a crush on her.
A couple. Wow.
I know, my mind just went, you know.
How did it make you feel?
Dizzy to start with.
Did you have to have the relationship discussions with them? Because
Yeah, I went really slow, just, you know, going, oh, yeah, dot, and then peddling like heck underneath sort of thing. But we've had more talks ever since that moment when she first confessed it to me. So we have had a talk about relationships, but I've really focused on making sure that her friendships are really important. So I've said to her, if you can't manage your friendships with the girls in your class, it's going to be really hard for you to have a healthy relationship one day. Managing a relationship with a teacher is important, with your parents, with your friends, with your cousins. We've got to get that right. And so I've sort of explained it to her like ABC in reading. It's a step-by-step. You don't just jump to reading a novel. There's things along the way that are really important to get to that point. So I've done it from a logical point of view, I think, and said to her, are you happy with these rules that we've set? And I've talked to her about it.
do you think it's different as a parent of boys?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And look, we were very similar to you.
Is it the more girls, the better? Yeah.
Well, it is now. Please, somebody send me some girls. No.
Your poor boy.
Whereas you're, on the other hand, you're like, no, study first, do your school.
No. We did that too. And we said to the boys when they were sort of, 8, 9, 10, right from an early age, we were saying, don't single yourself out. Don't get stuck in a relationship with girls. They cost money. But besides that, you're better off to be in a crowd of people going out and doing things together than singling yourselves out. Don't start dating till you're 21. Well, that's backfired now because they're 21 and there's no girlfriends.
I think that these rules are great, but then it's like if
How
you
did
don't
you grow up?
Well,
How
I
did you
think
go with them?
separate from that, I think that these rules are great, but I think if you don't have that communication where your kids can talk to you and you say 21 and they're doing something before 21, they just become master deceptors, like who are doing.
But what about the opposite extreme? I know you grew up with strict parents who, dating wasn't to be spoken of growing up. Do you think that affects the way you've now treating your child?
Well, my kid's only 2, so I'm actually sitting at both of your feet trying to understand. But yeah, I think definitely having open communication is the best.
Yeah, and dealing with it, I guess, when you...
As it happens.
As it happens, have the conversation.
Thanks for the insights, ladies. But now onto something that is also affecting our children and making news across the country is the issue of illicit drugs, pill testing and drug-related deaths amongst our kids. Research by the 2016 National Drug Strategy Household Survey found that by age 19, 1 in 5 young people have tried an illicit drug. To protect them from this, it could be as simple as having the conversation about drugs with your kids, giving them the facts before they're in risky situations. Have you had the discussion with your boys about drugs, about illicit drugs?
Yeah, we, to be honest, we had the drugs conversation before we had the sex conversation.
Right. And how old were the boys?
Oh, 5.
5. So you talked to them about illicit drugs when they were 5. How did they take it?
Well,
Or how did you explain it?
Okay, so at the time when my kids were first starting school, there was an episode of men giving drugs to young kids through the schoolyard fences.
Wow.
Right. So we just had the conversation, you don't take anything out of anybody's hands except for mum and dad. So that was as simple as the conversation was. And as they got older and they started, further into primary school, we had more conversations about it. But also I had to learn about it because I had never done drugs. So I had to learn what drugs were, what they looked like, what the little symbols were about.
Where did you go and find all that
Internet.
information? Okay,
Internet.
wow.
I talked with my friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I'm not educated, how can I educate my kids?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, for some parents, educating your kid about drugs, does it not then encourage them or say, well, mum's okay with taking drugs?
You think just from educating they're going to say that?
I know with the pill testing situation, there's parents that talk about, no, we shouldn't be testing these drugs because then it just tells our kids that, yeah, you can have drugs. This is just a safe way of, limitising, I guess, people taking drugs.
Yeah.
But does it?
I think it's a very different conversation from young kids where you're starting to teach them about, you teach them about healthy food and then you can teach them about other things that they put inside their bodies as well.
Truth be told, we live in a society that drugs, sex, all that is glamorised and they listen to it all the time.
It's
It's easy access for young
sometimes
kids.
free.
Yes.
So parents need to have this discussion. So you agree, have the discussion early.
and keep continuing to
but
have
I think,
it.
is the discussion really about drugs or the reason why they're going to do it? Is it about peer pressure? Like, it's not just purely the drugs conversation. It's like, do you want to be part of the in crowd? Do you want to be someone who's doing something different from everyone else? Do you want to escape from your reality? I feel like there are other conversations. to
Do you
have with
think
your
as a
kids.
parent you'll be able to control the influences your child has, like in terms of the friends that they have?
Yeah, you can to a
that-
point.
Yeah, you foster what you can.
Yeah, and we became friends with our children's friends. So we were friends with their parents. So it didn't matter which way they turned,
Mum
we
and
knew
Dad
what
were
was
there.
going on. If they weren't talking to us, we were talking to
We're starting
our
to
friends.
talk to
Yes.
our kids' friends, and we've even had some of these conversations with our kids' friends' parents.
That's it.
To see what page they're on, to say, okay, where am I going to direct
Would
this
you end a
friendship?
friendship if you could see that it wasn't kind of...
I would steer away from it for sure.
And
No
it depends
problems.
again how old they are. I've had conversations with the boys when I'm not happy about the way one of their friends has treated them or has done something. We've had that conversation. So it's all about keeping the lines of communication open in whatever form that takes, so that you know what's going on in your kids' lives without having to be right in the depth of it. Like, you can stand back and breathe because you know what's going on around you.
Having said that, you cannot predict anything
No.
that's coming up.
No.
Like, I know some kids, if you had that talk too young with them, they'd be very interested.
Yes.
They don't need to try and learn. Whereas other kids would be like, okay, I'll take that on board. So it's just a matter of managing the kids as well, because they're all different.
And we were very lucky. Our kids hung out with Christian children, and we tried to point them in a Christian way of life,
Which is great.
which I think helps.
Good stuff, Shona. Look, there needs to be more education around drug use and its effects. If you are concerned about your own drug use or that of a family member, friend or colleague, talk to your general practitioner. There are also many organisations which are able to provide help. Just contact the numbers on the screen and get help before it's too late. But now it's time to get our wellbeing on. Here's some family habits worth doing.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Colette on the couch again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now we're talking about family habits because we've covered off before about rituals, traditions, all of those sorts of healthy things. Sometimes it can be a little bit negative though when your family falls into patterns. How do you know if what your family are doing is a negative habit or if it is something that's a positive ritual perhaps?
So anything that begins to hurt the family dynamic, or certain members of the family, whether it's their mental health or your family cohesion or family structure, something that your family begins to feel this isn't healthy and it's not helpful to us as a family, we're not moving forward in positive ways, those are warning signs that some of the things you might be choosing to do as a family have become unhealthy habits.
Yeah, like if you're watching television every night, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I feel like if you're not doing it intentionally, trying to create that shared space, then maybe that falls into becoming a little bit negative.
You've touched on something good there. You said sometimes it's unintentional. Sometimes those things we do because we're tired or it's just easy, and so it just kind of happens and you turn around 6 months later and you go, how did that happen? And so things like, the funny memes of everybody sitting at the table with their phones or their iPad, that does happen. And so if for you as a family, you're noticing that, that's when you need to start, the warning signs go off. So, I had a mum come to me after a seminar at one stage and she said, my son's 12 and he chooses not to eat dinner with us. It's kind of happened over time. We've let it go. He goes to his room every night and he sits on his Xbox and that's what he does while we eat dinner. And what do we do now? And that is an example of a bad habit that's happened that they've just let go.
And sometimes you do notice the bad habit even forming, and then it does, as that example suggests, it kind of gets away from you. So if you start to see these things forming, what can you do as a family to kind of understand where everybody's at and maybe make some of those changes before it becomes really habitual?
I think those are times when you call your family together, not at the time, dragging the child away from the Xbox then, because that's not going to work. They'll feel antagonistic and targeted. Perhaps, go to a neutral territory or sit outside, but say to your children in advance, we would like to have a family meeting or just a family chat. We love you, we love our family, and we feel like there might be some areas we've fallen into bad habits, and open it up for them to even tell you. That's going to be painful. And set some ground rules. No name calling, no attacking personally. We want to figure out, are there some areas we can change, and what could we do going forward? Could we change it now from 7 days a week to 5 days a week with the aim of only you doing it 2 days a week?
Right.
So just really getting everyone on board and shaping together where you see the dream as for new healthy habits.
Yeah, getting everybody's voices in the picture,
Yes.
Colette. Thank you.
Thanks.
I love that. Have a family meeting, let everybody share their thoughts, and of course, find more tips and advice from Colette on our socials as well.
Did you know that 1 in 10 women suffers from endometriosis? And it's Endometriosis Awareness Month. So joining us in the studio to talk all things gyno and endo is Dr. Bevan Brown from Sydney Adventist Hospital. Thanks for being here, Dr. Brown.
Thank you very much.
Now, I know that endometriosis, as we just found out, affects a lot of women. Can you just give us a simple breakdown of what exactly endometriosis is?
Well, a woman's uterus is lined by cells called endometrial cells. Endometriosis is when those cells are found, or cells like them, are found outside the uterus, so through the tummy cavity and elsewhere in the body.
Where they shouldn't be.
Where they should not be.
And how does that happen? Are people born with it? Is it hereditary?
That's a good question. There are a lot of different theories as to how it happens. Some people believe that it happens because of reflux or backward flow of menstrual blood through the fallopian tubes and into the tummy cavity. Some people believe it happens because of exposure to environmental toxins, so things like dioxins, polychlorinated biphenyls, that sort of thing.
Like, where do you get those?
They're environmental pollutants.
Thanks for asking that question.
They're part of,
I have no idea.
they're environmental pollutants, and they're part of a lot of industrialised societies. We're starting to see these things as a persistent environmental pollutant. There's also a fairly strong genetic link that's been demonstrated by some studies based in both Australia and the UK. So very interesting. Lots
That
of different causes.
resonates with me, my mum, my grandma, and my sisters. So for me, the hereditary argument works well.
It's very true.
How do we know? What are the symptoms of endometriosis? How do you know if you've got it?
Well, endometriosis is characterised by 2 things. First and foremost being pelvic pain, and secondly difficulty in conceiving. So if you've got either one of those 2 things, the most likely cause that needs to be ruled out is endometriosis.
Right. So some women don't find out that they actually have endometriosis until they go to have a baby and they're having difficulty falling pregnant?
Some women never find out.
Oh.
So when I started my career, we were looking at women in their 40s with intractable pelvic pain who'd never conceived. And look at this is endometriosis. IVF, intractable pelvic pain, pain that will not go away, usually related to their menstrual cycle, often coming in the days before their cycle.
Which you think is normal.
Absolutely, and women have been sold that for a long time.
Yes.
Yes.
Just go home and take a couple of Panadol and a hot water bottle.
Very unfair and untrue.
Right.
Untrue. It does not work. So
That's
then,
true.
No, it doesn't. It does not work.
women in their 30s then, difficulty conceiving, women in their 20s, and now we're starting to look at young women in their teens, and guess what? The number 1 cause of pelvic pain in those women is still endometriosis.
So their symptoms are the same as somebody in their 40s?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Maybe not to the same degree, but certainly the same symptoms.
Is the number of women who have endometriosis growing, or are we just becoming more aware of it and it's being diagnosed more?
Look, I think an interesting parallel is to look at the conversation that women have with their mums about passing through into menopause. And many of the women that I'm seeing, oh no, we never had that conversation.
No. Sorry, we don't.
Absolutely. So what we're having with young women with pelvic pain is they're having this conversation for the first time and it's being picked up. It's not that it really changed in incidence at all.
So again, it's we're just talking about it with our daughters.
Which is a
About
very
it.
healthy and a good thing.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of cure for it, or is there any, we've talked about the symptoms, but is there any hope, or what's the treatment for endometriosis?
Well, endometriosis is unfortunately a disease that keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. But what you can do is you can do a lot of work to minimise symptoms to start with. You can certainly address deposits of the disease within somebody's pelvis with keyhole surgery, laparoscopic surgery.
Is that the only way to investigate if you've got endometriosis, through keyhole surgery?
That's considered to be the best way to make the diagnosis. So perform a laparoscopy, put a telescope down through somebody's tummy, have a look into their abdomen, and take a sample of what you're seeing.
Right.
So if you get those two things happening and it comes back, well, you've got a good diagnosis. You can have a pretty good idea by talking with somebody, someone who's getting spotting leading into their period, someone who's getting pain with their period, someone who's getting pain with sex.
Right.
And it's not small pain. This is the sort of pain that keeps people at home, unable to work.
I know that there's productivity concerns with women who are affected by endometriosis. So is there different levels of pain? Like, do some women suffer more with endometriosis than other women?
It's an interesting thing. There are a number of different levels of the disease. It's certainly staged along a stage of 1 through to 4, where 1 is the least severe and 4 is the most severe. But it can be quite startling as a clinician to see someone who's got relatively minor looking endometriosis, but they're very, very sore from it.
Yeah.
And yet other women that have got a pelvis that's frozen from front to back with severe disease, and they're relatively unaware of it. So unfortunately, the amount of disease you see doesn't always correlate with how debilitating it might be.
What's concerning also is in terms of workplace, because, you know, some women who are affected by this disease can't work and are affected. Do you think that more should be done in terms of, you know, yes, we're creating awareness, but in terms of employers and organisations and governments all realising that this disease that affects women needs something more than just, you know, people knowing about it. We need to make action to, I guess, accommodate for women who are suffering, is where I'm trying to go with this. Do you think, in your, you know, expertise, you're dealing with women all the time, you know? That...
Look, I think certainly there's a role for governments and private industry, but realistically, no one's really going to accommodate endometriosis unless they know that someone's got it. And so the point at which the awareness needs to happen is both in women presenting to their doctors and saying, look, this isn't right, and doctors saying back to them, yes, you're right, this isn't right, we need to do something about it. As you said earlier, the trend in the past has been to say things like, oh, take a Panadol, or you're only 17, that's normal. And it's just period pain. Have a baby, it will get better.
Doesn't.
It doesn't. You're
Because
absolutely right.
actually, in you saying that, people do say having a baby actually helps cure endometriosis. Is that true?
Well, for me, it helped for about 4 or 5 years, and then it sort of came back with a vengeance.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a sufferer of endometriosis, and you believe that.
Oh, I believe like having my kids certainly helped. It made a huge difference to the way I experienced my periods, but it has come back, and as I said, with a vengeance, it's a lot more painful and severe and sharp. So that's not
right.
so comforting.
Look, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Bevan Brown, for your time and your expertise and helping us to raise more awareness on this illness. Ladies, thank you for the chat, and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share and subscribe if you're watching us online, and link up with us on our social media pages, because there's always room for more mums at the table. And look, don't forget, you can subscribe to our Mums at the Table magazine. It's free. All you need to do is write into us, hello@mumsathetable.com. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you for being here today.